wake up. Barbados, get up.
Good morning Barbados, good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning Barbados, good morning to you. Good morning Barbados, good morning.
Wake up.
Morning to you.
Welcome to this very special presentation on this Emancipation Day. Today we embark on a journey of discovery, exploring the origins, significance, and contemporary relevance of Emancipation Day here in Barbados. We'll delve into the historical context of the abolition of slavery, examine the cultural expressions associated with this momentous occasion, and reflect on the progress made since that transformative milestone. We have many esteemed guests who will be sharing with us on today's presentation. So do stay with us as we continue with the celebration of Emancipation Day.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb, and together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Maxback Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for a new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you.
As we celebrate Emancipation Day, let's delve into the rich history and profound purpose of the day. We have the honor of welcoming an esteemed guest who has dedicated his life to championing the cause of freedom, equality, sharing much more about Black history and cultural preservation. His profound understanding of the significance of cultural heritage and its role in shaping our nation has made him a pivotal figure on Barbados' cultural landscape His insights into the celebration of Emancipation Day will undoubtedly enlighten and inspire us. So let's go right ahead and welcome to Morning Barbados, Dr. Derek Murray. Good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, Tisha. Good morning, Morning Barbados viewers, and thank you for that generous introduction.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the legacy of emancipation. I want to look at some of the ongoing challenges faced by our communities of African descent, and of course, the importance of commemorating this pivotal moment in our history. So let's get started with that question. What does Emancipation Day mean to you, the celebration of it?
Well, it means that we remember that there was a process of emancipation, that there was a pre-emancipation and a post-emancipation. Pre-emancipation meaning that we were enslaved, we were shackled, we were oppressed, we were made to work for no compensation. Our children were enslaved in perpetuity. We were not considered to be human. We were considered to be property. In fact, in the accounting of the plantations, we were under the line items that were considered assets and property. We were dehumanized, or there were attempts to dehumanize us. All of this being done based on the color of our skin as Black people and as African descendants. And that was pre-emancipation. Post-emancipation, we got political emancipation. We are legally free. We are not shackled and oppressed in the same way. However, there's still ongoing work to be done in terms of our decolonization and mentally emancipation. And therefore, Emancipation Day means for me, first of all, an acknowledgement and recognition of those who fought for our freedom, who made sacrifices, and sometimes the ultimate sacrifice in terms of their lives. In the case of Busa, for example, and the rebels during that rebellion. And all of our national heroes are representations of those people who contributed to the process of emancipation. And when I say representative, I mean they work for our emancipation. It's a process, but they represent also all of those whose names we don't know, whose names we know sometimes only in the community and in the parish, and sometimes only among certain sectors, but they made the contribution. So that's what emancipation means for me, and it means an ongoing struggle against the legacies, the residual effects of enslavement and colonization.
At the surface, or on the surface, Barbados has seemingly always given lots of prevalence or lots of prominence to the concept of celebrating or sharing about emancipation. I mean, after all, we have the Emancipation Statue, and then, of course, we had this day declared a few years ago. I remember the throngs of people who came out on that first year that it was declared. Now we have a season of emancipation, but have we been doing enough to be able to share with our people what has happened pre-emancipation, post-emancipation, and what's happening even now in communities of African descent?
Well, you said that we've always recognized, but of course, it was only in '97, I believe, 1997, that we legally recognize Emancipation Day as a holiday, which is a good thing. So we've made some progress, from emancipation in 1834, 1838. We had almost 100 years of what Sir Hilary calls 100 years of neglect. And then we had to have the 1937 riots to make some more progress. And of course, we had independence, and now we are a republic. So that's the process. And so we've been making some progress. We have there's still a lot of work to be done, because we have, put laws in place and so on. But in terms of things like our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves as Black people, how we feel about our own beauty, how we feel when we are confronted with by people of other races. Do we feel equal? Do we feel lesser than? Do we feel that we value ourselves and the things that we invent and the things that we create in the same way that we value other people? So we have that work to do, because I don't think we do. I don't think that we, in that particular instance of self-esteem, when it comes to contrasting with other people, I think that there's still much work to be done. And there has been ongoing work in the schools. When I headed the Commission for Pan-African Affairs, we started a program called the Mabalosi program, where the school teachers worked with children. And that's how we had those Africa Day activities with the primary school and secondary school children coming out in the Africa wear. Celeste, don't remember her last name, she was at the time in the Ministry of Education. She also pioneered and did a lot of work with the schools. And so and many of the artists, many of the poets and so on, many of the Calypsonians, many of the Rastafari, for example. There are many people contributing their portion in terms of our emancipation. So we've made progress, but this it was a systematic indoctrination for 300, 400 years. So it will take time, and it is pervasive in every aspect of our lives. The white ideal, white supremacy, and so on, in the images that we use in our school books, the stories that are told, and so on. And so it takes some time in our religion. It takes some time to counteract these legacies. But the important thing is to acknowledge that they're there and to systematically start to deal with it. And so now this administration has a schools awareness program, which is ongoing, and which is important for rooting out these issues.
Now, throughout your life, as I mentioned, and you said thanks for this generous introduction, but for me, there are certain people who, whenever we think of anything cultural, Pan-Africanism, about even the Clement Payne movement, for example, there are certain people who come to mind because of what you stand for, and this really seems to me like your life's work. So tell me how this has all shaped who you are as the person sitting here before us that we see every day, still advocating in this area.
Well, I often tell this story. I was born and raised in the Pine, just next to Parkinson School. And I always tell this story of, I remember distinctly, there were two guys, older guys at Parkinson School. I was at the primary school at the time. And they made it their main project to let me know that I was ugly. Every time they passed my house and I was outside playing, they made it their project to tell me, well, look at this ugly boy. And because I was so young, and they were older, and I had, my idea of beauty was the same as most young people at the time, which is, white, or clear skin at least, straight hair, and so on. And I would say to them, well, yes, I know. I of course, later realized that much of that is programmed, and it is extremely difficult to root out once it is programmed from young, because it becomes a part of you. If I say to people today, if I say to somebody today, well, Jesus Christ was not white. The image that you see of Jesus Christ is a white man. that's inaccurate. That person may very well agree with me. They will say, yes, I agree with you. Um, but then whenever they close their eyes and they think of their savior, they think of the same white image because they've already internalized that image. It's the same thing with language. You can learn a new language. You can learn French, Spanish, and so on, but you still speak it with a Bajan accent somewhat. So there are some things that once you internalize, it's hard to root up. So recognizing that from young, and then at the age of about 16, I got a scholarship to go to a college, a rare college. It's called United World College. And the entire purpose of that college, it was in Canada. There are a few around the world, but it's in Canada, on Victoria Island. And the sole purpose of that college was to bring together people from all over the world, teenagers, while they're still malleable, teenagers, so that you get to understand how other ethnicities, how other nationalities, how other people, how other cultures live, and you get some appreciation and understanding for difference. So when I came back, that was part of my being in struggle, the struggle for equality, the struggle against bigotry, the struggle against all those things that cause us to go to war, like religious fundamentalism and so on. And then I joined Finance Creative Workshop. So we dove, where we dove into our culture, Afrocentric culture, the folk culture, African spirituality, leadership and so on. So those were the things that molded my interest and attitude in terms of Afrocentric struggles against colonization, against the legacies of the remaining and residual legacies of enslavement. Sorry for that long digression, but that's the story.
And a wonderful story it is to be able to get you into to answer the next question that I have, because I remember very early on hearing about people who were referred to as Black Power people, and I remember Elome Motley used to be one of those people that people would refer to as Black Power people, and even I believe David Comishong. I obviously was very young, but I was very in tune to what was happening. So I felt as though it was in hearing these discussions, and this is when I was at primary school or so, I believe. So I felt as though it was being discussed in a negative light. Do you feel that there was a point in time in Barbados where people saw the celebration of things like Emancipation Day, or putting things in place for Barbadians to truly understand their history and so on, as a negative?
Yes, it was extremely negative. We organized an interview with Professor Jerome Handler, the white American anthropologist who worked in Barbados from the 60s. And one of the things that I tried to elicit from him, I hosted the discussion, was to recapture the feeling and the environment that existed in Barbados in the 60s, 70s, 80s, in terms of anything to do with Africa. He also studied Obe, anything to do with Obe, and so on. And his response was that, Africa was hardly mentioned apart from Elombe and a few other people. People hardly ever mentioned Africa. And of course, Africa, the image that, was conjured up, not by mistake or by accident, but because it was purposely programmed, with an image of uncivilized, backwardness, primitive people who had nothing to contribute to civilization. And also that they contributed nothing to Barbados, and which is why in the case of Barbados is even worse, because the result of that is that we had no culture. And when people said in those times, it may be hard for you to capture teachers because a lot of work was done since the 80s to refute that. But there was a general feeling that other places had culture, like Trinidad, Jamaica, other people had culture. We did not have culture. In fact, we were neither great European we were neither European in terms of culture, high culture, like ballet or whatever else is high culture in Europe, and we didn't recognize or accept Africa. So we were sort of in no man's land when it came to our culture. And even worse, the thing that was fundamental, the most fundamental aspect of your culture, which is the spirituality in your religion, that religion, Obe, for example, which by the Africans in Barbados was traditionally known as a force and a tradition of healing, was demonized to the point where even we ourselves started to refer to it as something demonic, something evil, something wicked. So, it wasn't by mistake that Africa was called the Black Continent, the heart of darkness and all these things. So, yes, we've come a long way, to the point where it is sometimes difficult to recapture how negative the environment was towards anything Africa. But there's still residues of that. I can guarantee you that anytime you talk about looking towards Africa or Africa identity and so on, there's someone out there, more likely than not, in the older age range, who will say to you, well, why are you worrying with this Africa thing? We got our thing here in Barbados, so why are you trying to go back in that uncivilized darkness and they have nothing down there good to offer? It's easier to know different now. It's because of technology and so on. It's difficult to sustain that type of position. So, for example, on Africa Day, on May 25th, the Barbados Library Service held an event for primary schools at the Steel Shed. My agency, the Center for Hybrid Studies, we organized the outreach to Africa. And so they had a live virtual exchange between primary school children here and primary school children in Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa. And our children got to see that they're children just like them. They have facilities just like them. They don't all live in trees and all of these things. And also they don't hate us. They don't look down on us. All these myths that are told by people who have severe difficulty in us retain or attempting to retain or which we separate with our ancestry.
All right. Definitely some interesting stuff, and I can absolutely see it. If we check off a few of those things that have happened throughout the years, you talked about us making strides in several areas. I know that many will count the removal of Nelson's statue from where it was in that prominent place on Broad Street as one of those things. Barbados moving to Republican status, most certainly as another. And even on Africa Day, the way that we celebrated on that day, the fact that we have an entire cadre of people who are here from the Africa Union to embark on talks about reparations. People will count all of these things as strides towards what we are working toward. So, can you say that the celebration of Emancipation Day, the celebration of the season of emancipation at large, is indeed contributing to addressing the challenges that we've had and are moving us forward as an African conscious society?
Yes. Many school children know the name Bussa because we checked. And I went into the schools again this year, and I asked, how many of you have heard of Bussa? Not all, but many of them have heard of Bussa. A few years ago, none of them would have even known about Bussa, and just before us, nobody knew that there was a Bussa. So we are making some progress. And it is going to be slow progress. It is going to be hard going. But we still, and the point that we're at is actually the most difficult point. We can change the dress, the ceremonies, and so on. We can change those relatively easy. What's extremely difficult to change is our internal appreciation and valuing of things that are African, things that we produce as African descendants here in Barbados or in the continent, and valuing them. So yes, I think that the season of emancipation is important for that. There's a critique that I've heard from time to time where people would say things like, well, I don't understand why as a black country we need to have Africa Day or Black History Month. Why bother with Emancipation Day? As a black country, we should be doing that every day. And so they're correct in the sense that these are things that we need to be working on day in and day out. But, just like you have a birthday which you highlight on a particular day every year, then you need special days where you emphasize and give priority to these issues. It isn't as though you have a birthday and then you die or go to sleep for the rest of the year and then just wake up on your birthday. So, this work is daily work. We know it's daily work in the schools because we know of teachers who are doing this work every day. And the truth be told, from January to January, February, March to about April or so, you have Africa Awareness. It is just that, so the schools are already talking to the students and so on. It is just that the events, the performances and so on happen in February. Some go as far down as March. And then just after that, April 14th, we start the season of emancipation, which goes from April 14th until August 27th. And then we go into independence celebrations, and then we have Kwanzaa and other end of year activities as Pan-Africanists and so on. So we have year-round activities that acknowledge and recognize the need for our continued and ongoing emancipation, the year-long emancipatory process.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for giving us just a taste of the thought-provoking questions that I'm sure a lot of Barbadians have explored, whether in their mind or otherwise, to look on this extraordinary journey into the history and purpose of Emancipation Day in our very beautiful Barbados. Thank you again, Dr. Derek Murray, for sharing with us.
Thank you, Tisha. Thank you, Mornin Barbados, for having me. And happy Emancipation.
And happy Emancipation Day to you as well. And we most certainly would love to wish every Barbadian a happy Emancipation Day today. Don't forget the reason for the day. It's not just another holiday. Of course, it's an entire season, but make sure you share with especially the little ones what it's all about. We have more coming up on this very special presentation of Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Of course, this is a special presentation on this Emancipation Day. Good to have you with us. And as usual, we're going to get going with our conversations on CARICOM. There's been a lot happening. So I know Ambassador John can't wait to come on in and update us. And then, of course, look toward what's happening in the coming weeks. Welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you, Tisha. It's a pleasure to be here with you as usual.
It's always great to have you as a part of what we're doing. Now, over the last 2 days, Barbados has been hosting members of the African Union and others from across CARICOM for very special conversations on reparations. Let's talk a little bit about how that went.
Well, I'm pleased to say that it was very successful. In addition to the AU team and the officials and civil society people who came into CARICOM, many of our own Barbadian people, activists, women activists, reparations activists, Pan-Africanists were involved, young people, artists, were involved in 4 days of intensive discussions with the AU team. The discussions were very, very rich, and we are all very pleased that this relationship between the Caribbean and Africa in relation to reparations is building, and we are very, very optimistic about where the reparations campaign is going. So I would say it was really a historic event, and the AU team, they were able to participate, for example, in our Day of National Significance commemoration at Golden Square. They were able to speak. They were in the audience. They had two receptions at Elara Court. They were able to engage with the Prime Minister, and so this visit has really laid a very strong foundation for collaboration between Africa and the Caribbean going forward.
And I know CARICOM, some members of CARICOM were also here as a part of a delegation from down the region. How do you see this will foster good relations, trade and otherwise, among us, speaking of here, the region, and across the African Union?
Yeah, well, people like Dr. Hilary Brown from the CARICOM Secretariat, she was the most senior CARICOM officer here, but she has responsibility for culture and the arts, reparations. So Hilary Beckles, in this capacity as chairperson of the CARICOM, the Reparations Commission, he was here. Our CARICOM representatives on the UN Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, Dr. June Suma and Ms. Yanel Curry from the Bahamas. They were here, as were several leaders of national reparations commissions from across CARICOM. So it was a really good coming together of CARICOM and Africa. And everyone was stressing, well, kind of like the elephant in the room, connectivity, connectivity. We need to be able to connect. We need those airline linkages, those communication linkages, news and arts and current affairs. And I should also say that that message was also sounded by the vice president of Colombia, who actually came in on the Wednesday night so that she could spend the whole day of Thursday with us. And this is Her Excellency Francia Marquez, the very first black female vice president of any South American country, certainly of Colombia. And that was her message as well, that we need to connect, even between Barbados and Colombia. She was stressing we need to get a direct airline linkage so that we could do trade, our people can move, we can do tourism, So that has become a theme song, that a priority now for us, a developmental priority must be transport-related corridors of development. So whether it is air transport links, maritime transport links, telecommunication transport, railroad transport is really the key, because we need to start connecting as a people. And once we connect, once people can move, then trade will follow, tourism will follow, cultural exchanges will follow. So I would say that in addition to the collaboration on reparations, I think the idea is sinking in now that for all of our governments, the priority should be on creating transportation and telecommunication linkages between our people as a developmental priority, because they will lay the foundation for all kinds of economic activity.
Now, speaking of linkages, let's talk about how initiatives like the Season of Emancipation, which really started with us really taking note of a day, really, has morphed to a place where we can now have these broader conversations that all tie into what emancipation is all about. The Season of Emancipation is all about. I know that, this has been your life's work, really, as founder of the Clement Payne movement, as former head of the Commission for Pan-African Affairs, and of course now as Barbados' esteemed ambassador to CARICOM. You are one of these people who has shown an unwavering commitment to the advancement of the African diaspora. So in making that connection, what connection do you see between where we have been going in Barbados in terms of acknowledging an entire season of emancipation and now having these conversations with the African Union and Latin America and the rest of the Caribbean about reparations and other such things?
Yes, well, Barbados is an example, a very good example, and a very good model. We have this 3.5 month season of emancipation now that runs from the 14th of April, the anniversary of the Bussa Rebellion of 1816, right through to the end of August, and so we take in Emancipation Day, we take in Marcus Garvey's birthday, we take in so many things, right? And yes, I'm very proud about this. I mean, when I was the director of the Commission for Pan-African Affairs, we started the concept of a CBC. But it waxed and waned years, I think, with the vision of the Prime Minister's office, the culture division of the Prime Minister's office. It has really been put in place in a very substantial manner. And and so I think this is very important, because in this 3.5 month period or season of emancipation, we really reflect on what has been our historical journey as a people, a people who were brought to a location of barbarism, the world's first slave society. and our ancestors had to resist that enslavement. They had to fight against it. They had to try to transcend it. So we have a history of victimization and suffering on the one hand, but also of resistance, of courage, of fortitude, and of creativity, cultural creativity to carve out for ourselves a meaningful social existence in a very evil and barbaric slavery environment. And that's where even Propover comes in, because Propover was the genius of our people in a barbaric slave plantation society, being able to carve out a space of joy for themselves, which became the festival of October. So I always tell, and let me say that all of that history has not only helped to shape our identity, but has bequeathed to us Barbadian people a mission in this world, and that is we we have to be champions and defenders of the principles of freedom and human dignity and human rights, because our whole historical journey has been about a struggle for freedom and human dignity. And so I still always um, the Barbadian people and nation have evolved in a very progressive and conscious direction. And it is because we have consistently emphasized two aspects of our history. One, the struggle against slavery, exemplified and symbolized by the figure of the Right Excellent General Buster, hero of Barbados. And secondly, the workers, the People's Rebellion of 1937, exemplified and symbolized in the figure of Right Excellent Clement Payne, national hero of Barbados. And some Barbadians might not be aware, but our emphasis on highlighting those two parts of our history and the meaning of those struggles, that has gone a long way in helping to evolve a very an increasingly conscious and self-respecting Barbadian people and nation. And I think it's an example and a model for other countries.
And speaking of it being a model for other countries, as ambassador to CARICOM, how do you feel that Barbados really taking the lead and taking it in hand to move away from even just a one-off celebration like Emancipation Day to embrace an entire season and dedicate it toward this? How does this augur well for our relations and how we work with our Caribbean compatriots?
Well, that too is a model. In Trinidad, for example, they have something similar, a kind of season of emancipation, but that is done by a civil society organization, the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. What makes Barbados' season very unique is that it is government with all of the resources of the state, and it's invested with the authority and prestige of the office of the Prime Minister and ministers of government, etc. And yes, we are making a conscious effort to connect this with our Caribbean integration movement. I mean, Barbadians who came out to the Day of National Significance commemorative event this year would have heard me stress that what we are celebrating in Barbados, our July 26th, is not a singular standalone Barbadian event. That it is part of a regional series of people's rebellions that started in Belize in 1934 and then went to St. Kitts and St. Vincent and St. Lucia in 1935 before the rebellion picked up more steam in Trinidad in 1937, Barbados, the Bahamas, going to Jamaica in 1938, and then in 1939 to Antigua and Guyana. And so we in Barbados, we are aware that as much as we prize our national achievements, our national identity, Yet we recognize that we are part of a Caribbean whole. And by being part of that Caribbean whole, we are so much stronger because of that, that we recognize the power in unity and collectivity. So we saw it in the 1930s. These rebellions led up to the Mornin Commission, the British feeling that they had to send the Mornin Commission, and they had to institute constructive reforms of the system. It's not just because of Clement Pain and what happened in Barbados, it's because of that whole system of rebellions. And even if we go back to Emancipation Day and the fight against slavery, when the British Secretary of State for the Colonies piloted the Abolition Act in the British Parliament in 1833, he said that they were forced to act. They were forced to act because the slave rebellions in the Caribbean were coming so fast and furious that they recognized that if they did not abolish slavery from above, that is, from the level of the British Parliament, that the enslaved in the Caribbean would abolish it from below through violent revolutionary action. And that is because, in addition to our splendid coffee slave conspiracy in 1675, our splendid Buster Rebellion in 1816, there were so many other regional slave conspiracies and rebellions. I mean, in Jamaica, you had the Maroon Wars with Cudjoe and Nanny. You had Taki's slave rebellion. You had the rebellion led by Sam Sharp in St. Vincent. You had the Black Caribs under Chatoyer. In Berbice, the Kapi Rebellion, and we can go on and on. In fact, the historian Michael Creighton, in his book Testing the Chains, he identified no less than 75 major slave plots and rebellions in the West Indies, in the British West Indies, over a 200-year span. So we know that we achieved the abolition of slavery because of the collective force of rebellions right across the region, including, of course, our brothers and sisters in Haiti, who had, in fact, the most massive and impactful slave rebellion of them all, the Haitian Revolution. So we are taking that message to heart. Everything good and constructive and progressive in our history tells us that when we do it as a unified people, when we do it as a collective, that is where the real power comes from.
All right, I want to thank you so much. And I know you'd like to take this opportunity to wish Barbados a happy Emancipation Day as well.
Yeah, well, I want to wish happy Emancipation Day, but I am also hoping that people will be out in their numbers at the march starts 7 a.m. The Emancipation March. We're going back to the old concept of 4 marches coming from the 4 directions and converging on the Buster statue, and so much entertainment, speeches. Minister Chantal Monroe Knight, the Cuban ambassador Yanet Stable, myself, Special Envoy Trevor Prescott, the mighty Gabby, John King, Adrian Green, Winston Farrell, Finelands Creative Workshop, Dance in Africa. It's really going to be, a wonderful celebration this year of 2023, and everyone needs to be part of it. Everyone needs to be there in their liberation colors, their red, black, and green, or even white, and bring in their flowers. So yes, this year will be a great season of emancipation for Barbados.
Well, thank you again for your time. Always very informative having you share with us during this segment conversations on CARICOM as we look to big celebrations here in Barbados that would have taken place or reflect on celebrations that would have taken place here in Barbados for the 50th anniversary as well. So all the best to you and yours.
Thank you, Tisha. Much appreciated.
Stay with us. We'll be right back as we invite Cultural Ambassador Dr. Anthony Gabby Carter to sit with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Max Pack Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for our new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We now have the privilege of welcoming Cultural Ambassador Dr. Anthony Gabby Carter to Mornin Barbados, especially on a day as significant as today. It's wonderful to have you. I know that you're one of these people who has been instrumental in working toward, through your passion, preserving Barbadian culture and indeed showcasing Barbadian culture across the world. But as a Caribbean man, you're also passionate about the Caribbean and taking the Caribbean along for this journey.
Very much so. Thank you very much, Tish. Thank you for inviting me. Hi, listeners, viewers. You know, emancipation means so much to me, not just in Barbados, across the Caribbean. And I've also had the good fortune of being asked by another Caribbean country to represent them in Mexico, namely Cuba. And it was such a wonderful thing. So I am like across the board. You know, I don't get into the political part of that. I just be across the board. The Americans call me, I gone. If whoever called me, I gone. It's for good cause. It's to bring people together. That's what I do.
I know back in the day when you started out, you know, you started out as this young artist, always very, what we would deem deep and very, very conscious music from early beginnings. But then when you kind of met up with Eddie Grant, we saw a different Gabby, a more socially conscious Gabby, certainly a Gabby that seemed far more connected to his roots. Talk to me about that relationship and how that has shaped who you are.
Well, that actually began with Lombe Motley. From the time I was a teenager, I used to just idolize Lombe. And he would lend me books on black history and this and that. And we would sit down and discuss so much things because that man's brain is as sharp. I can't describe as sharp as what, but as sharp as anything you can imagine.
Attack.
As sharp. He's fantastic. And then when I went away, I began to, living in New York, to find groups that were conscious, who taught me about Egypt, the role Egypt played in the fact that it gave us all 7 liberal arts: maths, science, biology, astrology, astronomy, music, and linguistics. And that's what solidified me now to work towards recognizing black people as contribution to mankind, to civilization. And that prepared me then, that when I came home then, as an artist, as an actor in On the Dappy Parasol, I was ready to take it up. And then, when I met with Eddie Grant, I was able to record it and have many, many conversations with that brilliant brain of his. And so that is what caused me to continue in that vein and be conscious and write those kind of songs and things like that.
Let's talk about the evolution of the entire concept of even an Emancipation Day or a season of emancipation in Barbados. I seem to recall, only through watching past videos from our archives department, that once you started growing dreadlocks, there was much discussion even on that here in Barbados, because not so long ago, there were a lot of people who, didn't necessarily smile on that style of wearing your hair, or the Rastafarian lifestyle as well. So those subtle changes, how do you think they tie in to where we are, the level of consciousness that we're seeing these days in terms of how we celebrate?
See, the problem is this, that people had pigeonholed or ostracized Rastafarians and disrespected them, more or less. And every time something happened, say with a court case or something, just show a picture of a Rasta, look at these people. So psychological damage is like, see who they are, see who getting arrested. Meantime, the people who ain't got no locks, the ones getting locked up the most and stealing the most and doing things that are not exactly right. But when I met Eddie Grant, here was this man with his long locks, but he so conscious. It had nothing to do with locks. If he didn't have locks, it would make no difference, because he's a conscious brother and he understands the world, the Caribbean and Barbados and Guyana and all the other places that belong to us. So that was instrumental, highly instrumental in shaping the road and path that I had to travel musically, culturally, spiritually, and otherwise.
Even before we talk about how others help to guide you along this path or walk with you on this path, even the type of music you sang from early on had glimpses of this. And a lot of us go back to even the level of advocacy that can be credited for songs from way back when, like The Beach Is Mine, and things like that. So, I mean, it must have come from somewhere, but it most certainly feels like it is inborn.
Let me tell you something. Two of my dear friends on separate occasions spoke with me. One was Daphne Joseph Hackett and the other was Maisie Barker Welch. Both with the same question. Gabby, why are you so angry? I said, I'm not angry. I'm teaching. I'm sensitizing people to who we are, where we were, and where we're going, or where we should go. So in order to do that, I have to write these songs of what people call songs of protest, or political commentary, or social commentary, and let Barbadians who were so passive, Barbadians were like passive in the behavior. Even you go to a Calypso tent, and they used to applaud like this, look. Nobody used to jump up, yeah! That never existed, right? It's a real passivity that you witnessed. I said, I want to wake up my people spiritually. I don't want them to be politely clapping like this somewhere in London, No. Let them be rambunctious. Let them be enthusiastic. Let them show that fire, that rhythm, that drive, that beat. That is us, because we are African people born in the Caribbean. And if this is true, which it is, then we have to exhibit that kind of exuberance, and feel and love and respect for other people and their property, and at the same time look to take Barbados from here to there in all aspects of life.
Because your music really tells Barbados' story, do you believe that's why it just lives on and on? Even now we're seeing how it has taken off with a very interesting remix done by a young brother out of Trinidad and Tobago. But it's as though, people are discovering Gabby and Gabby's music all over again for the first time.
Well, I am so grateful to the young brother. There's a guy called Juice Man in Trinidad. He's the background man. He's the man that actually did the connection to Eddie Grant and all of that with that song, right? But prior to that, remember that Trinidad loves my music. So every carnival, from the time I put up Boots played for every carnival up till this last one here this year, right? And then they love this Dr. Cassandra. I have no idea why these two songs, right? Because I will written and recorded so many songs. They also know the connectivity between me, Roy Cape, Sparrow, Gypsy, and all the other great artists in Trinidad. And they know that I used to live there, and that my ex-wife was a Trinidadian, and that my son is Trinidad, one of my sons. So there's a connectivity there. But then it goes right through the Caribbean, whether it be St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts, Nevis, Anguilla, you name it, Guyana, Jamaica, right? Come out Bradford. My dear brother, God bless him. He called me a morning, Gab? I say, yeah, I used to speak really softly, you know. Man, congratulations. I said, for what? Your song is #1 on the charts in Jamaica. I said, but come out, that's impossible. Jamaica don't have a soca or calypso chart. He said, that's why it's so important. You are #1 on the reggae chart. I said, because they don't have a soca or calypso chart. I said, how is that possible? Anyhow, thanks, buddy. 20 minutes later, phone rings. It's Byron Lee. Hey, Gabby, congratulations, man. I want you to come to Jamaica. You can come next week. I say, well, not really next week. No, Gabby, don't worry about the airfare and them thing, man. There's a place to stay. No, man. I want you to come, man. And your friend by Benny King, man. Him a come, man. He say, him your friend, man. I say, yeah, me and Benny been friends from the time I was living in New York. Gabby, yeah, Gabby, what you have to do that's so important, man? You can't make it to Jamaica, man. I say, well, I could make it to Jamaica, but not next week. When you come? I say, well, about 9 days. So, all right, ticket done, book and everything, man. Just go on the line there. You see it, man. Going up to Jamaica, and here was Boots, #1 song in Jamaica, right? So, the fight with Jack and the bitches, the Jamaican radio stations calling me, speaking for a whole hour. Jack and why this and talking about the beaches and how they have so many private beaches in Jamaica and what they think and how they're conversing and all these things. So you go to St. Lucia, same thing, Jack. Jack caused so much changes in St. Lucia because the St. Lucians singing Jack, going down the beach, tearing down fences that hoteliers put up and things like that, you know. And the hoteliers say, this Gabby, who is he? Man, I can't be, who's this guy? Man. And so the drive, my friend Ralph Gonzalez, right? Dr. Gonzalez, Prime Minister Gonzalez, is not my friend. He is my brother. We've been friends or brothers since he was teaching here at UE, right? So when I go to St. Vincent, I stay at his house or at the official government residence or something like that. And so strong is the bond. There were many occasions me and Ralph campaign and helped campaign for Mayor Commission and Mr. Cheltenham, Richard Cheltenham. And me and Ralph eat up the same plate. You understand? With the same fork or spoon or whatever the hell it is. Because that's the bond, right, between us. So, you know, I'm not a Barbadian that is, what can I say, colloquialized so much that I just go Barbados. I go Caribbean, right, from Cuba to Jamaica to Haiti to wherever, you know, because I know that we are one people, and I know what happened, what transpired with the whole colonialism and everything. I'm quite au fait of that. And then when I go further afield, I go into the United States or England, or I go wherever, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Botswana, and so on. Same thing.
I know that you've been at the forefront of the conversation. We're seeing a lot of these people come to the table now here in Barbados and through the participation of Barbados and the Caribbean at various conferences. But you've been off to the continent and you have your ancestral name.
Yes.
That was bestowed
Chief
upon you.
Omowali, yes, please. It means our son has returned to us. And by the way, I was in a forum 2 days ago at UE with the African Union, right? And people from the diaspora, as well as Barbadians, right, who were asked to give their opinion on what role culture can play in us getting reparations, right? So I met everybody, including a king from Ghana, right? So we are connected now. So he wants me to come to Ghana to do some performances and so on, and that will be done in time.
I know that you also had some connections with the Latin American continent
Oh,
as well.
yes.
I remember that through a connection at UE as well,
Yes.
you were able to do a theme song for Petrocaribe and
Caribe, yes.
and move into I believe Venezuela,
Yeah.
and do performances on television there, and it was
Yes.
very, very well received.
In Colombia too. Byron Lee took me to Colombia, and we performed at a bull ring, 30,000 people. And it was so amazing that these people are speaking Spanish. And yet when I began to perform, to sing with Byron Lee's band, they were going ballistic. You know, I said, but how do you know my music? I go to Costa Rica, and they gave me the highest award from the black community that a non-Costa Rican could receive, the prestigious award, right? So, I mean, it's like, it just tells you the story, you know. Panama. I went to Panama with Carl Roberts Reefer, and we went to visit the Indians, what people call the indigenous people, right? First world people. And the chief just came up to me. I never saw the man in my life. He said, I like you. I will have lunch with you. And he sat next to me. And I wrote a song the same time. And Carol sent it here to Barbados. Because I felt that emotion, I felt that feeling, that connectivity to him, to the people, to the indigenous people. We go in Guyana. I go Guyana and I go in what Guyana is called the bush, with the Amerindian people. I did concerts at Anai. Anai is a plane right away from Georgetown, right? In the middle of the jungle. And some of those Amerindian people walked for 3 days to get to that concert. Do you understand? How could you ignore people like that walk for 3 days to see you sing, and then have to walk back 3 days because people think that Guyana is Barbados?
Yeah.
Guyana is bigger than England, Wales, and Scotland put together. So when you make a connection like that, it is such a wonderful thing. You know, it is like, you can't explain it. You just can't.
What do you think, or where do you think this level of engagement, as we look past the season of emancipation, all that it stands for, and how we're making strides in Barbados, how do you feel this will shape where we're going as a people?
First of all, the emancipators, I call them that, like Bossa and Coffee, and Nanny Gregg and so on, we must never forget them. We must make Coffee a national hero. Why? Coffee's plan was to take over Barbados and become king of Barbados, right? 2 little boys told their mother of the plan, and she panicked and said, oh God, how you could do it? And go and tell the British soldiers or the British authorities. We do not know what happened with those 2 boys, but she begged them to please give her a break. They held Coffee in Speightstown and burned him alive in Speightstown. Right? Barbarians overall, some of them know, some of them don't know this history. And there was one guy, I think it was Jackie, and they were asking questions, and who else involved, who else? And Jackie said, don't tell them anything. They said, you're going to get burned today. And he said, roast me today, but you cannot roast me tomorrow. That is power. That is a man that has already died, speaking from the grave, because he don't care, because he's fighting for the liberation of our people. We must never forget those people. But then on the continuum, you have to see what transpires. What transpires? They built the foundation for us, and we moved into what we call emancipation and so on. And then we moved in to the period of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and all of that. The crop over thing, the revival of crop over in the 70s and all of that. And the movement of our people moving to the present day time. So we have Grady Adams, we got Tom Adams, we got Errol Barrow, we got great leaders, we got the great Mayor Motley, right? Winata, Sandyford. We had great leadership all the time. You might curse some of them, and the next one has a B, has a D, has a whatever it is. But at the end of the day, when we look back at the progress that we made it with great leadership right up to today. I know we are global through our Prime Minister. Global. I mean, every time you look around, some other country is giving her the accolade. Meanwhile, we cursing. It remind me of when Sir Gary was batting in his prime. Bajans cursed Sir Gary left, right, and center. I remember there was a game, I think it was against Guyana, and he had just made a lot of runs overseas. I mean, he came home. He made some small score. And he did, oh, them brands he make out there, look, we want to live 50 or something from here, look, not a run at all. He's a joker, man. He's a joker. He's cursing the greatest batsman or cricketer in the world because he didn't make runs on that occasion. And I said, what madness is this? You got to give Jack his jacket. And if you're the greatest in the world, what is this? You can't do that. I remember Sir Everton Weeks, my dear friend, departed. There was a guy who, in a conversation with us, said, Sir Everton, you remember that one ball I gave you? And Sir Everton, brilliant man here, said, which test match that was again? He never even played for Barbados, never made test match. But he wants Sir Everton to give him praise or to remember that he gave him a warm ball in maybe some food match or some foolishness like that. That's how we are. But we have to get rid of that mentality and drive and understand that we are on a global scale here now. And we're dealing with things like emancipation, we're dealing with reparations, we're dealing with climate change and all this. And I wrote songs on each and every one of those subjects because we are preparing. I soon go, at 75, I soon go. But the point is, I have decided from long ago, since I was 6 years old, since that man Harold Macmillan came down here, right? And he's making a speech by the mayor's office, which is Mayor Motley's grandfather, right? E.D. Motley, Ernest Dighton Motley's office. He was the mayor. And he talking big and important, but on this auspicious occasion, in these hallowed walls and, in this, something chamber, August chamber. Language that we at 10 years old didn't understand. And we're fainting all about the children hungry and fainting right by St. Mary's Church there. I walk home, and he don't know what he did for me. I walk home. Next day, Mr. Lane, Cossey Lane at St. Mary's School, young man, I was told that you walked out on the speech of the Queen's representative, a no less a personage than the Prime Minister, Mr. Harold Macmillan. Is that true? Tell me that's not true, first of all. I said, no, sir, it's true. No, you can't do that. You have to write 50 lines with these exact words. I must respect the Queen and her representatives at all times. But at all times must be in capital. I'm sure you know what capital letters mean. At all times, okay? I was so vexed, I wrote 100. So when I got back to school, first of all, my mother saw it, Tony, what's this foolishness over and over and over and over, the same words all the time. I told her, no, you can't do that. And I went, and he told me, oh, so you wrote 100. So you want to learn a new word? I said, yes, sir. It's called insubordination, because you're trying to prove that the 50 lines meant nothing to you, right? Well, you will now write 500. I gone by my aunt door, Miss Paris, because I can't let my mother know that I got to write these 500 lines, and she got to pay for the book. I wrote them out. I eased back in. Okay, Now you've learned a lesson. The Queen is our Queen, and you must respect the British crown. Okay? We are a colony of Great Britain, and we should be glad that we are here, because had not for them, we would be in the bush in Africa saying, "Ow, ow, ow," right? Because it's a very backward place. That gave me my education to re-educate myself. It's at that moment I realized I was being miseducated, because he also had the audacity, gall, gumption, temerity to tell me that we had no history and that England saved us and that we should be grateful for what they did for us. He never told me that we were building universities and had universities while Europeans were living in caves and mountains and trees and things. So I had to re-educate myself from that early. So by the time I reached in my teens, this fire, this protest, this thing of taking us somewhere else against all the criticism and everything was there. And I had radio announcers when I go in for interviews, like Alfred Pragnell, I had to call names, especially when they're dead. He was, "Oh, you have no respect for our Queen. Oh my goodness, it's so disgraceful." I mean, I would do the interview, but I'm not doing it from my heart. I just want you to know that, I detest your behavior. I said, "Alfred, you was a little like saying black man pretending to be white, What? I said, "Sorry, you're a mulatto, and you don't understand who you are. You think that you're British, but you're not. You're just another light-skinned black man who doesn't know who he is. But me, I black from the last grain of hair on my head to the last set of dirt on my toes."
Gabby, you had some interesting encounters through the years.
Yes.
And it would take us multiple shows to be able to sit through your storytelling, because you are indeed an excellent storyteller.
Thank you.
And I think that's what contributes to the beautiful music you've made through the years. I know you want to take this opportunity to offer a happy Emancipation Day to Barbados and the region as well.
Yes, I do. I wish in the whole region and my dear country, Barbados, a joyful, wonderful, beautiful Emancipation Day.
All right, thank you so much. Morning Barbados, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, What makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And this is a song that I was encouraged to sing over and over again by our ambassador to CARICOM, the Honorable David Comachon. Because when we were talking about Clement Payne, not many people were, but we fought for about 30 years to make sure that he became a national hero that he deserved. So bad. What we gonna do about Clement Payne? What we gonna do about Clement Payne? He fought for this country again and again. What you gonna do about Clement Payne? What you gonna do about Clement Payne? What you gonna do about Clement Payne? He fought for this country again and again. What you gonna do about Clement Payne? He is a Barbados national hero. But all history books don't say so. He fought for the rights of the poor and oppressed. He shocked and he rocked the ruling class, yes. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And he tell the people, agitate, agitate, don't violate. Agitate, 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 don't violate. Agitate, agitate, but don't violate. Agitate, 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 but don't violate. What you gonna do about Clement Payne? Will you build some statue in his name? He fought for this country again and again. Hey, what you gonna do about Clement Payne? I ask you, what you gonna do about Clement Payne? What you gonna do about Clement Payne? He fought for this country again and again. What you gonna do about Clement Payne? The street school was his old alma mater. Yes, sir. But then British brutes call him a traitor. Well, he used to keep his meetings over in Province Square, but the police ran him away. Oh, at 2 Golden Square. Right here, I say right here, right here. He tell the people, agitate, agitate, but don't you verily agitate, 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 but don't violate. He said, agitate, 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 don't violate, just agitate, agitate, but don't violate. What you gonna do about Clement Payne? What you gonna do about Clement Payne? He fought for this country again and again. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do about Clement Payne? when Clement was unfairly deported to Trinidad, something very significant happened here in 1937. Riots in the land, riots in the land, riots in this island, and the people and them say they're gonna fight. Because today is a funny night. Riots in the land, riots in the land, riots in this island, and the people and them, they say they're gonna fight. Because today is a funny night. It was in 1937. Seems like the land was ruled by Satan. 'Cause innocent people police shot in them head, and poor little children get kicked till they die. In the head. In the head. Yeah, we had riots in the land, riots in the land, riots in this island, and the people and them say they're gonna fight, because today is a funny night. The reasons them riot was wide and varied. Couldn't get no food to feed them babies. Couldn't get a job if you beg on your knees. Couldn't get no medicine to cure the disease. Yes, please. So we had riots in the land, riots in the land, riots in this island, and the people and them say they're gonna fight, because today is a funny night. Riots in the land, riots in the land, riots in the land, riots in the land, riots in the land.
Well, that's it for our very special presentation on this Emancipation Day. Here's wishing you all the best.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up.
Good morning, Barbados, good morning to you.